Hello and welcome to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Kyle Case and I'll be your host on this amazing journey as we attempt to help you get the most out of your life. Joining me in the studio today is my co-pilot, Jeff Harding. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm still smiling, Kyle. Still smiling.
You're still smiling?
Still smiling.
Of course. I'm glad. I'm glad that you're still smiling. You're referring to last week's show.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, we learned last week that smiling not only makes you look better, but actually it has true health benefits.
It improves your disposition. It makes you a happier person.
Yes, it does, and lowers stress and a whole bunch of other stuff. It works at the cellular level. So I'm glad you're still smiling.
And I have happy cells.
That's good. That's good. Well, each week, of course, Jeff, as you know, we talk about the healthy lifestyle, the active life, and hopefully, we come up with ways that help people get the most out of their life.
Right.
We talk about a wide variety of stuff and topics that range from diet to exercise to smiling and other things. A lot of times we talk about things we should add to our life, like exercise and activity and those kinds of things. But today, Jeff, I want to talk about things that we should get rid of.
Okay.
5 things.
Let me get my pen.
5 things that we should go ahead and throw away, according to an article that I found at health.com. Okay?
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
On me.
Thing number 1. This is interesting. Antibacterial soap.
Oh, I'm going to have to tell my wife about that.
Yeah.
Every soap we have in the house is antibacterial.
Well, almost everywhere you go, you even in public restrooms or whatever, you see that it's antibacterial soap.
Right.
They have found that antibacterial soap is really no more effective at killing bacteria than the regular stuff. And unfortunately, it may not be that safe, according to a 2014 FDA report. The active ingredient is called triclosan. I thought that's what was in turkeys.
No, that's tryptophan.
Tryptophan.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Starts with a T.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, so triclosan is the active ingredient in antibacterial cleansers, and it's been shown to alter hormone regulation in animals. And there's also concern that the chemical may contribute to antibiotic resistance.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
And I've also heard that it gets into that it's infiltrating the waters.
Yep.
And so it's
wreaking havoc everywhere. So
areas, yeah.
Anyway, something to think about. Antibacterial soap, not quite as healthy as we maybe thought that it was initially.
So all those ladies that are using antibacterial soap that are getting a hairy face, it may be because of the soap.
Because their hormones are out of regulation. It could be. It's possible.
You just never know. Yeah.
Okay, the next thing. This is not a surprise, I don't think. Your stash of diet soda.
It's gone.
Yeah, you don't drink soda. Yeah. Well, they found that diet soda, you think to yourself, well, diet soda's got to be better than the regular stuff.
Less sugar, right.
Less calories. This is good for me. But there was an article in the journal Nature. They found that non-caloric sweeteners like saccharin, sucralose, aspartame, they mess with gut bacteria. And that bacteria plays a key role in healthy metabolism.
In digesting your food.
Yeah, so you think that you're doing something that's better for you, and in the long run, you're kind of messing up your whole digestive system.
Well, and basically, if you can't pronounce it, you probably shouldn't eat it.
You probably shouldn't eat it. That's true. Although I think there's maybe some fruits and vegetables that might be on the list.
Possibly.
Anyway, researchers have found a link between these sweeteners and altered gut microbes, as well as glucose intolerance and metabolic syndrome, which are both precursors to type 2 diabetes. So we think, well, we're cutting sugar out of our diet. We're taking care of that by doing the artificial sweeteners. And really, that's maybe potentially leading to type 2 diabetes. And they found that that's the case in mice, but also in humans.
Wow.
So they've taken it to the next level in testing,
scary.
and they're finding that diet soda is maybe not the best thing to be drinking right now. The next thing number 3, old sunscreen.
Is its effectiveness, or are you talking about my old hat?
No, old sunscreen. It does lose its effectiveness after the expiration date. So once, keep your eye on that. Once it's past the date, it really isn't as effective as it could be.
So that tube I found in the backpack that I haven't used for a number of years probably isn't a good one,
just get rid of it and buy a new tube.
Okay.
All right. The last one, again, maybe not a surprise, but studies show that the germiest thing in the average American household is the kitchen sponge.
or washcloth or whatever you.
Well, now they refer specifically to the sponge, and the reason is that we generally recycle through our washcloths, right? We'll wash something, keep it for a day or two, then we'll throw it in the laundry. We don't generally do that with sponges. They just tend to sit right there on the counter.
True. Now we have one at the office, but I don't have one at my home, so I'm good there.
Okay, you're fine there. And we've kind of gone through a variety of different things at the office, but currently we're using a combination washcloth sponge.
Which is pretty funky. It's pretty interesting, yeah.
They do say that one potential thing that you can do with your sponges is to put it in a microwave for a minute every once in a while, and that will ideally kill the bacteria. Or you can go to the washcloth and just, wash it.
Or you can send it to Hollywood and make it a star, and then you can afford to buy new ones, like SpongeBob.
There you go. Okay, so there's always a better way to look at things.
Obviously, you don't have any young ones running around the house because my grandkids would have known exactly what I was talking about.
I do know who SpongeBob is, but I didn't make the connection immediately. So anyway, washcloths, they say, are a better way to go because we recycle through them, and wash them. But the sponge itself holds a lot of germs, so maybe something to throw away.
Yes, sir.
5 things. 5 things that if you get rid of, you can have a healthier life. And speaking of a healthier life, which is what we try to do on this show, today our guest has seen kind of both sides of the active life. Craig Davis was, like many of us, focused on career and an everyday busyness of his life and let his health slide just a little, but had a wake-up call from his doctor, and he made some changes, and we're excited to have you with us today. Craig, how are you?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, we're just glad that you could take time out of your schedule and be here with us. So Craig's been an athlete at the Huntsman World Senior Games for more than 20 years and has competed in 8 different sports, and he's medaled in all of them. And we want to learn a little bit more about you and about how you live the active and healthy life. So let's talk a little bit about it. So when you were younger as a kid, did you participate in a lot of sports, or was that something you picked up later on in life?
I did some sports when I was younger, but when I became more sedentary in my profession, I kind of let all of that slide.
What is your profession?
Plastic surgery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you weren't out getting out and exercising as much as you had when you were younger?
No, I didn't have the time, and I had a family to take care of.
Right.
Responsibilities, so I let that part slide. But at age 45, I went in for a routine physical exam and found that my cholesterol was 586. And my triglycerides were 1,500.
Wow!
Both about 5 times what they should have been.
Okay, so I was going to say we know that's really high, but to be 5 times, that's really up there.
It was, and I had a brother whose cholesterol was 1,000.
Oh,
wow!
And had already had a heart attack in his early 40s, and my EKG was beginning to change, showing that my heart was not getting all the oxygen that it needed.
Yeah.
So at age 45, I took a new lease on life, decided that sports and exercise were going to have to be a big part of it. I wouldn't be around too long.
You need to integrate it into what you were doing. So now, were you overweight? Was there like a visual reference of, okay, I need to do something, or was it just this visit to the doctor?
I was a little bit overweight, maybe 20 pounds overweight at the time.
But not extensively.
Not morbidly obese or anything of that nature. And I felt pretty good.
Yeah. But obviously inside things weren't quite the way that they needed to be.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so you say to yourself, I've just come home from this physical. I'm a little surprised at the results. I don't really care for the numbers that they're telling me. I got to do something different. So what did you do? Like, how did you take that next step?
Well, I started studying a little bit about diet and how it affected cholesterol. That's where I started, and made some significant changes in my diet at the time.
Okay.
Cutting out a lot of the saturated fats and carbohydrates as well. And then I started an exercise program where I was cycling and running and swimming a little bit.
So did you pick up triathlons, or were you just doing these things separate?
I did. I've done a number of triathlons starting later in life to do them, but that became a big part of things. And the cycling, I was putting in 100 to 200 miles a week on the bike.
That's pretty good.
That,
yeah.
And then when I turned, that was when I was 45 years old. When I turned 50, I started doing the Huntsman Senior Games as a motivational thing to keep me going in all of these things.
Well, that's great. We love to hear those kinds of stories, and we consider that kind of one of our missions. You know, our mission statement is to foster worldwide peace, health, and friendship. And we have found that when we focus on that health aspect of the games, oftentimes that's what people tell us. They're able to use the Huntsman World Senior Games as a motivator or as a goal or something to work towards. And so we love to hear that. That's great.
Yeah, and it fit into my competitive personality because I like to win stuff. So
you like to win stuff.
I've heard that about surgeons. Are surgeons very competitive?
I think, yeah, plastic surgeons in general, I think are very aggressive. They have to be by nature.
Yeah.
And, to put a blade on someone's skin and cut through it, it takes a little bit.
You have to have some confidence in yourself, right?
Yeah.
I know I couldn't do that. I just know I couldn't do it. So, okay, so you say to yourself, I got to make some changes. Why did you decide to pick up cycling? What was it about cycling that drew you to it?
Well, I had a bicycle, which I hadn't been using very much, so I thought it was a good place to start. And I lived out in a rural area where biking was fairly safe. And it's something you could just do alone if you had to. Those are the main reasons. I didn't like to run all that much.
Yeah.
Swimming was inconvenient because you'd have to go to a pool.
A swimming pool.
Change your clothes and all that stuff. So at home, I could just hop on my bike and do, 10 or 20 miles, whatever I had time for that day.
So that was my next question that I wanted to visit just a little bit about. You were 45 when you decided to make these changes. You still were a professional. You still had the same, requirements. You had a family. You had your profession. You had other responsibilities and obligations. How did you ultimately find the time to make these changes? I think a lot of times that's what people are lacking. They say, well, I just don't have the time. I'd love to, but I don't have the time. So how did you find the time?
Well, for me, I found if I didn't do it in the morning, it was hard to fit it in later. There was always something going on. So on the days when I wasn't starting surgery at 7 o'clock in the morning, I would get in an hour or two, at the crack of dawn before I went to work. Mm-hmm. And not try and rely on doing it later on in the day when I was tired and stressed and had other meetings and things going on.
So you didn't have a stationary bike there at your surgical station?
I did not.
not at the station, at least.
No. And surgery, you get in there and some operations are 2 or 3, 4 hours.
Yeah.
Standing one place, getting very little exercise.
Right.
And so it felt good, too, to get out on the bike and get some endorphins going early.
Sure, absolutely.
I think I was better at what I was doing, surgically and at the office.
If you don't mind, a lot of us have been in surgery, but we were asleep when we were in there. Mm-hmm. Why don't you give us an idea of really what that world looks like so we can have an idea of what you were dealing with that you had to overcome for your physical exercise?
Well, you get in there and maybe have 4, 5, 6 cases scheduled for the day and very little time in between. So when you're in there, you're, just standing over a patient in an awkward posturing. So my neck and back and shoulders always had a lot of tension. And in doing surgery, plastic surgery in particular, you can't really have a bad day.
Yeah, it's important.
You can't just show
They're
up
not very understanding, are they?
No, they're not very tolerant at all of that. So every day you had to be at your best. And sometimes things didn't go as smoothly as you'd like. So there were a lot of stresses, and it all takes its toll, I think, on our health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like Kyle said, I don't know that I would want to be responsible for invading somebody's body and repairing and then closing the body back up. That would be a lot. That in and of itself is a lot of stress.
Very stressful.
Yeah, it is.
So
it was.
So you decided to pick up cycling. I also wanted to ask you. You said you had kind of a bike laying around. Was it a nice street bike? Was it just your kind of Walmart kind of bike? Like, how did you say, yeah, I'm just going to grab this and go?
It was a road bike, but it wasn't state of the art. It was a steel frame.
Okay.
Maybe 3 gear. I can't even remember, but to 3 gears probably.
So in other words, you don't have to go out in order to make changes in your life. You really don't have to go out and spend, just a ton of money on the best and the latest and the greatest. You can just get up and get moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And depending on the terrain where you're going to be biking, it doesn't have to be a real expensive, lightweight bike. And I always believed in, Armstrong's philosophy that it's not about the bike anyway.
Right. It's about the guy who's on the bike and how hard you're pushing yourself.
Exactly.
Okay, so you start cycling. You mentioned earlier that you also got into running and swimming and combining the three into a triathlon.
Mm-hmm.
When was your first competitive triathlon, and how did that go for you? Your very first one?
Well, I started out with the mini triathlon, which is fairly short distances, and I won my age division. There aren't a lot of older guys doing triathlons.
Uh-huh.
So I did well with that, and then advanced on and did some longer ones, the Olympic distance.
Okay.
I never did an Ironman.
You haven't yet.
No, not yet. I don't think I'm going to.
It didn't sound like there's going to be a yet.
Yeah.
It's never too late, Craig. It's never too late.
Well, yeah, I'm not convinced that it's a healthy thing to do.
It maybe is a little too much stress.
A little over the top, I think, that one, yeah.
Well, if you're just joining us, you're listening to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life, and we're visiting with Craig Davis, who is a longtime athlete at the Huntsman World Senior Games, participated over the past 20 years. Is that right?
Correct. I got my 20-year watch this last Games.
Well, that's great.
So we have met before then.
Maybe.
I was the one that was giving them to you.
Oh, okay. You look familiar. Yeah. Yeah. And there were some prominent people there, and it was
probably Kyle.
Well, it's always good to make a connection like that. And we have a program at the Huntsman World Senior Games where we do recognize and award longevity. And we have a 15-year ring, a 20-year watch, a 25-year it's a trophy. It's a rock trophy that's made from the red rock here of southern Utah. So keep coming, because you've got that to look forward to. And then next year, not the one that's coming up now, this coming year is our 29th anniversary. But next year we've got to come up with something for people who have been coming for 30 years, and we will probably have some athletes who have participated for 30 years.
There will be a handful.
Yeah, which is amazing. So congratulations on your receiving the watch and your longevity at the games.
Well, thank you. My wife received her 15-year ring at the same time.
Oh, wonderful.
So we were able to attend the ceremony together. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
That's awesome.
And it helps to have a mate that wants to do these same things.
Absolutely.
Really
it makes a big difference, doesn't it?
What does she compete in?
She competes mostly now in golf, but she's done the cycling with me over the years and as well.
So you've kind of focused on cycling and running and swimming. We mentioned in your bio that you've participated in 8 different sports at the Huntsman World Senior Games. Let's talk about those. Which 8 have you competed in?
I've done golf, tennis. My current passion is really pickleball.
Right.
The mountain biking.
Okay.
The cycling, and even bridge.
Oh, you've even competed
One year
in
I did bridge. Yeah, they needed someone to fill in. And
well, good for you. Yeah. And then swimming, have you swam at the games?
I've done the triathlon. I haven't done specific swimming events or running events.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've focused on the cycling, the mountain biking, and then the triathlon.
Yeah, cycling's probably been the most consistent sport over time for me.
Great. And
the others I've kind of dabbled at.
Yeah.
Pickleball is a great sport for older people, I found.
It is.
Yeah.
And we're lucky enough to host one of the best pickleball tournaments around, really, one of the biggest in the nation, and registration tends to fill up very quickly. So it is a great sport that's growing, and people really enjoy it.
And this is kind of a mecca for pickleball, St. George right now.
It has
really
become.
Is. Yeah.
It has become a mecca. So you've been competing for about 20 years, like you said. What would you tell somebody who is contemplating whether or not they want to get involved in the games and is maybe on the bubble? What would you tell them to kind of push them over the edge?
Well, I can just tell them how much I've enjoyed it. And one of the things I've really liked the most about it is the health screening. It's given me a linear look at my life over 20 some odd years.
Right, right.
They test cholesterol, hearing, body composition,
carotid artery.
Yeah, carotid artery sonograms. A lot of sophisticated tests that you wouldn't ordinarily get in a regular physical examination. And I've got a copy of that, a hard copy of that in a file, so I can see what's happening to that over time. So I've got something to measure. To me, that's one of the greatest facets of the Senior Games.
Wow. Well, that's great. Well, Jeff, of course, as our director of operations, handles the health screenings. And so he's kind of the person who's behind the organization of it and making sure it happens and pulling it together. And we also agree that the health screenings is definitely a benefit, a real benefit that the athletes get as participants in the game, and it's included in your registration fee. So we encourage everybody to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I'm always surprised to talk to some of the athletes I'm competing with that don't even know about it or do it on a regular basis.
It is ironic that it doesn't matter how hard we try to let people know about, the participants know about everything that's available to them as participants, how often we hear that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in the program, it's on the website, it's out there. There's signs around the Dixie Center as they're coming in. I mean,
we have great testimonials by people like Craig.
We're not trying to keep it a secret, but to get the word out seems to be a big challenge.
Yeah.
The folks out there, it is to track and keep track and have a baseline and see what's going on in your health.
Yeah, I think it's very important, especially if you look at it over a period of, say, 10 or 20 years. You're going to see what trends are happening in your life health-wise. And I love the body composition testing.
Right.
You stand on these two electrodes, and they can tell you your body fat percentage, muscle mass, lean body mass, all these numbers, which I thought was fascinating.
Well, I love what you've done in keeping track of it yourself over the past 20 years, because it really does provide a holistic view of your health and your health history.
I'm impressed too.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So, any favorite memories of the games over 20 years? You've hopefully got some good memories.
Got a lot of good memories. A lot of, there's a lot of agony that goes in competing, particularly in cycling, when you're doing a 40, 50-mile race up a hill. And, yeah, so you remember, the people you compete with, and not necessarily always about winning, but that's a fun part of it. Standing on the podium, getting your medal.
Always good memories.
In cycling,
there.
It was always, I was one of the very few from Utah that would ever be in my competitive bracket.
Uh-huh.
There were guys from Alaska, a lot from California.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really was competing on a very high level in that particular sport.
And as you competed with athletes from around the country and maybe even around the world, were you able to make friends and create connections that have continued on?
Oh, definitely. I've got friends now in all these places that we always get together during the games, but, even call and talk between times and stay in touch.
I have to admit that I've been at a cycling event prior to the race, and I've heard the athletes talking with each other. Where's such and such? Well, he's coming here. What happened to such and such? Well, this happened to such and such. They know what's going on in each other's lives, and they know who's coming, and they're looking forward to seeing each other. It really is. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it becomes a family.
Yeah, a close-knit community.
Yeah.
And again, the mission of the games, fostering worldwide peace, health, and friendship, that friendship aspect is so important as well.
It is.
Well, Craig, thank you very much for being with us today. That's about all the time that we have, but we sure appreciate you being here and look forward to seeing you compete at the games.
Well, you're very, very welcome, and thank you for having me.
Well, it's almost here. Online registration opens on March 1st. That's just a couple of weeks away. For information on any of the 27 different sports we offer, you can visit our website at www.seniorgames.net. And again, on March 1st, you can register right there as well. We anticipate things will move quite quickly for some of our sports, including, as we mentioned, pickleball and bowling, so you won't want to delay there. Make sure that you register early. And don't forget to tune in next Thursday, where we'll continue to explore the active life on AM 1450 or FM 93.1 for those who are listening live. And for those of you outside the area, you can listen to this and any previous episode right from our website, once again, at seniorgames.net. Final thought for the day from Saturday Evening Post cartoonist Marty Bukela: when it comes to staying young, a mind lift beats a facelift any day. Until next Thursday, stay active.
Bye, everybody.